to go. We'll start with Ira.
Coach, obviously things got kind of away from the whole team in the second half, but first half, how did you feel like you guys played? It seemed like there were a couple of explosive plays, but overall, how did you feel like the defense was playing at that point?
Not the first drive at all. You know, we ended up giving up, I think, 3 or 4 third down conversions on the first drive, leading to a touchdown. And, you know, I think there were a few times after that in the first half that I think our guys started to respond and play better, but you can't start the game like that. And so I thought that our team needed that to start from us. You know, I think we started, it was a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and just didn't execute on the play to stop it. And, you know, we really never stopped it on that drive. So, but we go into halftime, it's 14, whatever it is, and got a chance, and we come out in the second half, and there's a sudden change, and we took a good step the week before in those opportunities, and they hit a one-on-one and executed. Hats off to them, but you know, the teams that win make those plays, and the teams that lose don't. And we got to do a better job of making them.
Chris?
Down the stretch, as the scoreboard got wider between the two, how concerned were you about the defense playing like the scoreboard reflected instead of just going and playing the next play?
I mean, I'm not naive to think the scoreboard doesn't get into people's minds, but you tried not to coach that way, you know, and so, you know, it's discouraging when, you know, you get down, and you don't want it to be that way, but, you know, you're trying to inspire them every minute, you know, whether you're trying to get them back to center when you're doing well, or you're trying to regroup and make sure that you get focused on the important things when you're down. And so, you know, just got to be better than that, but definitely frustrating when you see the score the way it got to be in the second half.
Jordan?
Coach, they hit 2 pretty wide open plays up the middle on the pass, one with the flea flicker, one just seemed like a bust. What happened on those 2 plays?
I mean, the flea flicker was just what it is. You know, they handed the ball off, he went in the line of scrimmage, and we got uneasy with our eyes and jumped it, and next thing you know, that's what happens. And so that was a huge play. You know, that was one of the touchdowns. And you know, the other one that you're talking about, just we got too quick with our eyes off of a route, and thank goodness the mistake was not that it was made, but you know, after that play we created a blocked field goal, which helps, but it doesn't minimize the mistake because that's field position. Now, you know, those are the 2, you know, those 2 plays in that first half were big plays, and obviously something that we tried to get cleaned up ASAP. And you know, both times when it happened, there was, Coach, I understand, I made that mistake, but we can't make them, and so I gotta constantly find ways to rep those plays in different ways, and you know, but there's got to be some ownership of the players as well, and there was.
Brendan?
They were able to hit a few successful plays on 3rd and long, and that's something you guys strive to get them, and you've been working on it throughout the season. Is there a common thread, common denominator, why that hasn't been as sharp of an area as you would maybe like it to be this year?
No, there's not a common, you know, if there was, we'd address it ASAP. Working on, I mean, on that first drive, you know, there was a play they've run numerous amount of times out of different sets, and they gave it to us, and we just didn't make the play. We didn't see it fast enough. And then, you know, credit to the quarterback on one of those 3rd downs in that first drive. We got out of the pocket, and then when he got out of the pocket, we took our eyes off of a guy and went to the quarterback, and he found an open ball. The other 2 were 3rd and shorts that they converted. You know, that was on that first drive. You know, the rest of the game, I mean, they go 4 for 4 on 3rd downs in the first drive. We were a little bit better as the game went on, but still not good enough, right? And one of the plays that he went to on when we got our eyes off of 3 down the seam was a 3rd and long as well on an empty set. So, you know, definitely working to make sure that that doesn't happen. And you know, we were making some strides, and everything isn't everything. You know, we took a step back in the moment on certain plays, but I trust that I'll get it fixed, and you know, players are creating some ownership as well.
Ira?
It seems like, and I can't get to the X's and O's of it, but it seems like you guys have tried some different things defensively throughout the course of the year in terms of coverage. And is at what point, like, do you run out of things to keep trying, and what, like, going back to 3 years ago, one of the things you complimented Coach Norvell with was not really changing, like, when the team started 0-4, he stayed, you know, can you do that when, you know, you're 5 years into a program, or do you have to look to keep changing things up?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, not going back and saying what I think you meant about when I complimented Mike, I think that wasn't, you know, perceived, that was me just talking about him every day and how he acts and the structure he provides and the consistency he provides. I think schematically you always have to be open to, you know, doing different things. Now there's certain things that you can't get away from fundamentally, but I think you're always trying, you know, different things, and you're trying to get guys, and you know, because we all want guys to play fast, right? That's the company line that every program says, but playing fast in one call that has a weakness that everybody's doing doesn't really help that, right? So you need to find ways as a coach to maybe adjust. Okay, we've been playing it like this. Teams have finally caught up to that, or maybe this position isn't as strong as the opponent's position, so you need to adjust because that isn't going to play the same as it did against the other team. And so, Ira, I mean, it's a good question. You're constantly trying to stay in a step ahead. And when you're correcting things, it's hard to get ahead of it because that's 2 steps, right? You got to correct it, then start to work on the other thing. So, you know, it's our job to anticipate those issues so that you can work ahead. But the season, I mean, you look at college football and, you know, there's teams that think they're this, and next thing you know, they wake up and they're on the other side, and, you know, vice versa. And so, you know, the record is painful to look at right now. And there's been certain strides that I think we've made from that bye week that have shown up, and then doesn't mean it's showing up all the time. And so it's my job to reflect, look at, and then proceed moving forward of, okay, everything isn't not working, but these things that aren't, like, how do we integrate it? How do we get it corrected in time to go play a good Clemson team? And, you know, that's my job, and that's what I'm on right now.
Aslan?
After the game, I think Coach Lashley said on the first touchdown to their tight end, it was some sort of package they brought in terms of getting you guys to match personnel with some that he thought he saw from you guys. And
You talking about halftime in the second half?
first half, I think. Actually, no, it was second half. It was second half.
Yeah, it was after the sudden change.
Yeah, so.
The first drive, yeah.
Do you feel good about a kind of matchup like that where a guy like RJ Maryland is one-on-one outside with a linebacker? Or do you hope to be flexible more so in those situations, or was a sudden change part of that problem?
No, I think anytime people put in, you know, 3 tight ends and 1 back, or 2 tight ends and 2 backs, you always have to make a decision of, you know, how do you match up with that? And, you know, we're going to recruit in a way that, you know, if it's a wideout, that's one thing, you know, but, you know, within tight ends, you know, I got all the confidence in Blake. I mean, he's a good coverage player, and I mean, it was a really good throw and catch. You know, would like that play to be made. Obviously, in hindsight, you'd like to have Azarie on him, right, and everything. And so, but that's something when teams go big personnel groups and teams get in a short yardage and goal line, you know, you got to make decisions of, you know, what is the matchup. It's the same thing when they go with just 2 tight end sets. There's 2 wideouts on the field. Do you adjust to the wideouts, or do you adjust to, you know, the formation or the personnel? And, you know, it's all about, you know, what they are. And all due respect to their tight end, you know, he did a good job in that play. But I do expect us to be better.
Brendan?
You mentioned a couple times players taking ownership of miscues or mistakes. I guess what does that look like on the Sunday meeting? Like, how do they discuss?
Well, usually it happens right after. You know, usually it's not the next day. Usually when something happens, and sometimes it just, there could be a miscue that doesn't show up, and you got to address, because you see it as possibly an advantage for the offense moving forward. Or even when you have success and it's not done the right way and you got to go to them. So there's all those opportunities when you coach it right when it happens. Very rarely do you not notice a mistake, and then on Sunday you bring up, hey, why didn't you do that? I mean, hopefully that never happens, but you know, I think the ownership is, you know, because everybody's defensive out there when things don't go well, right? Typically, like, find reasons why it's not your fault, right? It's this, it's that. But I think part of addressing when you're trying to improve mistakes is the first thing comes when you can identify the mistake and you take ownership of the mistake. It's a lot easier to correct those instead of chasing around ghosts of why and how.
Coach Norvell mentioned earlier you guys struggled to set a hard edge in the run game again this week. Is that a coaching issue, or are you seeing anything on film of guys not putting the right effort in setting a hard edge?
Well, anything that doesn't go well is a coaching issue. So we're all clear with that, right? Because we put the player out there, we tell them to do this, and if it doesn't happen, it goes back to Brendan's question. Like, you don't say, well, I told them, it's not my fault. That's not good ball. And so you got to own all that. I did think we've done a better job of inside plays when they bounce setting edges, but they got the ball in the perimeter a couple times, and we got to be better at corner and of just setting those edges when they come, or even if that's on safety when plays bounce, just some of the fly and perimeter sweeps.
Aslan?
You talked about college football. There's so many teams that they think they're one place, they wake up and they see they're on the other side of things. My call back to a remark he made in the preseason where he talked about just how much he liked this team, but you never truly know until that sort of moment of truth, which are these games. When you find yourself at this point, like at 1-4, what are the kind of questions you guys can ask to help get as much clarity as you guys can as a staff to figure out why you guys are indeed where you're at?
Not sure. So questions that we would ask.
One another as coaches, as a staff, when you guys have meetings, what are the things?
Yeah, we got to stop on third down. Like that'll help us not be 1-4. We got to obviously set the edge a little bit better on some of the perimeter runs. I don't know if I'm answering your question great. I don't know if it's more of a philosophical question or just a nuts and bolts question.
More philosophical in terms of just how, not just you guys, but as coaches, how can the assessment in the preseason not connect to how things look after 5 games across the country in your history?
Well, if you go back, there's probably nobody that comes out preseason saying they think they're going to start out 1-4. That usually doesn't happen. I think importantly, of trying to find what your strengths are, going into each week, and then trying to play to those strengths, I think is probably a very valid way to look at it. When you're coming out of preseason, because you're really going against each other, but it's our jobs. Because I do think one of the most important jobs as a coach, I think the best attribute is your evaluation skills, whether that comes of who you acquire as assistant coaches, players, where you put them positionally, or how you view an opponent. I think the ability to identify those are really important.
Ira?
You got some opportunities to play some younger players on defense. It's not really a group, it's individuals, but anybody kind of catch your eye, or what did you think of the opportunity that those guys got?
Really, I still think Quindarius is, earning his playing time. We got Edwin more involved, just at more nickel. He was coming off of that Cal game. We keep giving him more and more. So that will continue because, he's been somebody that he's earned more opportunities, but as you've given to him, you've seen his preparation in his mindset or connectiveness to what's going on even elevate more, which is really the way you want it to look, right? But things are going to happen, like in the game, they hit him on one ball, which is, it's part of playing DB, right? I mean, balls are going to come your way, and it's a make or break type of situation. But Ed and really, there was nobody in this game that we said, okay, this guy's going to play more. It's it's been Juice, it's been obviously Blake at linebacker, it's been Quinn, it's been Ed, it's been Conrad. Jabril Rawls showed up on special teams, and he's been getting a little bit more activity. And then Byron went down the game, so Hester kind of gave that fourth DN role a little bit. So that would really be the only one that played a little bit more of a role than he had the first couple weeks.
We're going to Aslan for the last one.
Is there anything that you guys can kind of pinpoint about Cade Klubnik and just how far seemingly he's come in one season, and how much more dangerous that offense seems this year as opposed to last year?
Yeah, I I thought last year he was a talented player, quick release, good mover, pretty accurate with the football. I think he's really stayed away from turning the ball over this year, which has helped him. You know, they had some exchange issues last year. Those aren't showing up as much, which has helped them hold on the ball. And, you know, they've been the first game was obviously not what they wanted, but they've been on a roll since, especially offensively, doing a really good job. And it starts with him. I think his accuracy on down the field balls has been outstanding, and he's dangerous with his feet. You know, there were times even last year in our game that, you know, they were just trying to run him and get as many blockers in front of as possible. They were safe plays, so they still have that in their offense too. I just think his ability to throw the ball down the field with accuracy right now, and just, you know, he's a year older, so, you know, everybody wants to label guys as failures or superstars early. And, you know, I think he's really starting to come into his own, but we've all seen the skills of him, and I just think he's playing with a little bit more ball security right now and doing a better job with it, and they've been having success because of it.